Good morning. I want to try something with you. Instead of our traditional Christ is risen indeed refrain, I want to try something else this morning. And some of you might recognize this from a few years ago, but it is worth repeating today. I'm going to say, Christ is risen, and I want you to reply with, Christ is risen, no, really. Okay, let's try it. Christ is risen.
Christ is risen. No, really.
Christ is risen.
Christ is risen. No, really.
Great job. We will do it again later. I'm changing it up so this reality can hit us in a fresh way, in a way that challenges our perhaps over-familiarity with Easter words, so we can get Easter into our bodies, into our breath, into our bones, because not only do we really need it this year, but also because it is true. Easter morning holds a creative tension. We have the glorious music, a brass quintet. And the exquisite flowers and the incense and the joy of all of us crammed in here together that resonates for all of us. But we also have the grief of being humans and of being humans in 2025. We hold that tension, that paradox of celebrating the joy of Easter amidst the pain of what also is. So, if you are feeling full of joy, good, you are not alone. And if you are here feeling numb amidst the fanfare, you are not alone. And if you are here but distracted by grief, you are not alone. Or maybe a mix of all of that. Easter holds it all. We are living through volatile and difficult times, just like Mary was on that Easter morning long ago. A man walked the earth who threatened the status quo. His speaking truth to power, his boundary-shattering love got him brutally executed by the state. His friends and followers were devastated by the complete failure of the movement. It's hard to imagine a darker moment than what they were experiencing. This morning, we sit with Mary while it was still dark, the story goes. We are in a garden, outside of a grave, the ultimate place of finality, grief, and death. But something happens to Mary. She doesn't recognize it at first. She doesn't know resurrection when she sees it. But she knows it when she feels it. She feels it when Jesus calls her name. And suddenly, she knows whose voice that is. And like sap rising from the roots of a tree that has endured a long winter, she feels resurrection rising within her. And then she knows, and she runs to tell the others. As a mentor reminded me just a few days ago, Easter did not change the world, at least not immediately or magically, but it did change the hearts of a few people. They experienced an inexplicable inner uprising of hope, an uprising against the injustice of the world. The resurrection of Jesus happened inside them. To their great surprise, they discovered that Christ lived in them and among them, and that recognition created a ripple effect that somehow is still rippling out today. That inner uprising continues whenever we allow ourselves to be bodies in whom the Spirit of Christ is embodied. But how? It is easy to get distracted by the heaviness, the insanity, the disorientation of the days we are living through. How do we find our way to that inner uprising of resurrection presence and hope? The first thing to notice in this morning's story is that Mary experiences this inner uprising through her grief and fear, not despite it. When they discover Jesus' body is gone, the two men who are with her check out the scene, admit that the body is gone, and then they just leave. Then it says, "But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb." Mary was present to her grief, and then she boldly looked straight into the tomb, the place she feared most, and that is when she spotted the two angels in white. Author Alexander Shaya writes, "The more we are able to be present in our fullest selves to any moment or situation in our lives, the more likely we are able to see angels instead of emptiness and to know how deeply we are accompanied." Mary models to us how to stay present to our grief. If we can feel, we can heal. It is through Mary's grief that she is able to recognize resurrection, and it is also through her love. Grief shows us what we love, and Mary loved Jesus above all else. Throughout Holy Week, she stayed with that love, no matter how hard it was to witness what she saw. Cameron Trimble writes, "Resurrection isn't born from brute force. It's born from fidelity, from courage, from the refusal to abandon love, even in the darkest hour." Secondly, this scene takes place in a garden. The gospel writer John did this intentionally. John loved symbolism. And the garden represents creation, the natural world, new life. It makes sense that John set the first resurrection appearance in a garden, and I'd like to dig into that for a few minutes. I'd like to dig into the garden using a word that was made up by a woman who lived in the 11th century, Hildegard of Bingen. She was an abbess, a writer, a composer, a philosopher, and the word that she created is viriditas. It's a Latin word that means to her the greening power of God. She used it to describe the creative, vital force inherent in all things, a vital life force that we feel and can easily see in a garden. The green life force that pulses through the natural world. For Hildegard, this greening power of God was at the very heart of everything, because it is. All we have to do is go outside in the spring of Santa Barbara to access it. And according to Hildegard, we need to spend regular time accessing it. Her word, viriditas, is a mashup of two Latin words, veritas, which means truth, and viridis, which means green. So she made up a word that means green and truth in one word, viriditas, green and truth. Hildegard knew 10 centuries ago what we most need to hear today, that we must stay connected to what is green and true in ourselves, especially during these times that threaten to dampen it. Hildegard believed this needed to be cultivated like a gardener in our very bodies. And then we can feel the sap rise. Then we can feel the uprising within us that responds to injustices around us. Then we can have Christ resurrect within us. No, really. So friends, today's Easter question is, what is green and true in you these days? How can you access and cultivate that viriditas? This question leads to our resurrection selves, the selves who are needed to show up in this world today. The question is also not just about us. We can also ask, what is still green and true in America? There is a lot. And what is green and true in the world? And yes, what is green and true even in our opponents? That is at the heart of the nonviolence movement that Jesus was part of, finding ways to address the green and true part of even the most heinous individuals. Author David Brooks recently wrote that it's time for a comprehensive national civic uprising. We resurrection people have a role to play in this if we allow the green and true to rise up within us and to respond from that place. We emphasize to our children here at Trinity that Jesus is the true vine and that we need to find ways to stay connected to that vine. This is also viriditas. Jesus is the green and true vine, rooted in love, and we are mystically connected to that love through him. When we allow it, when we cultivate it, the sap rises from the deepest deep, straight up to our hearts and out to the world. Sometimes it is through our grief. Sometimes it is through death. Sometimes it is through the Eucharist. But resurrection comes. Resurrection is. Stay connected to the true vine, my friends, and grow your roots deep. Our roots interconnect and mutually sustain us just below the surface. Our collective body is humming with resurrection power. We don't always know resurrection when we see it, but we know it when we feel it. Alleluia! Christ is risen. Amen.